Have you ever sat down with a cup of tea, maybe flipped on the TV, and heard yet another story about someone having a heart attack out of the blue? It's scary, right? Especially when you're over 70, and you start wondering if that could be you someday. Well, here's the good news. I've got something to share that might just put your mind at ease. Did you know that after 70, about 90% of heart attacks don't have to happen? That's right, they're avoidable. And a big part of keeping your heart ticking strong comes down to what's on your plate. I'm not talking about some fancy diet that's impossible to stick to either. These are simple, everyday changes that can make a huge difference. And I can't wait to walk you through them. Today, we're going to talk about 6 diet tips that can help you dodge that heart attack risk and keep you feeling vibrant, no matter how many candles are on your birthday cake. These aren't just random ideas. They're backed by folks who study hearts for a living. And they're things you can start doing right now, even if you're not a master chef. So, grab that tea, get comfy, and let's dive into the first tip that could be a game changer for your ticker. Now, let's start with something you might not expect. Cutting back on processed sugar. I know, who doesn't love a little sweetness in their day? Maybe it's that chocolate bar you sneak after dinner, a couple of spoonfuls in your morning coffee, or that slice of cake you can't resist at a grandchild's birthday party. We've all got our weaknesses, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying life a little. But here's the thing. All that extra sugar isn't doing your heart any favors. It sneaks into your bloodstream, messes with your cholesterol, and over time, it can clog up those arteries like traffic on a busy highway during rush hour. The American Heart Association says folks over 60 should aim for no more than about 6 teaspoons of added sugar a day. Believe it or not, that's less than what's hiding in 1 can of soda or a single glazed donut. It adds up fast, doesn't it? And when it does, it's like putting extra weight on your heart, making it work harder just to keep you going. So, what can you do instead? Try swapping out that sugary snack for something naturally sweet, like a piece of fruit. An apple with a dab of peanut butter is a favorite of mine. It's got that creamy crunch that hits the spot. Or how about some berries, strawberries, blueberries, whatever's in season, with a dollop of plain yogurt? It's just as satisfying, but it won't send your heart into overdrive. My neighbor Joan, who's 72, told me she started doing this a year ago after her doctor gave her a gentle nudge about her sugar habit. She used to keep a stash of candy bars in her kitchen drawer, but now she's all about slicing up a peach or grabbing a handful of grapes. She swears she's got more pep in her step these days. Enough to keep up with her gardening and still have energy for a chat over the fence. Plus, it's so easy you don't even need to turn on the stove. No recipes, no fuss, just a quick grab from the fridge. It's a small change, sure, but it's one that lets your heart breathe a little easier. And isn't that worth it? Knowing you're giving yourself more good days to enjoy? And while we're talking about little swaps that add up, let's move on to something you might already have in your kitchen. Fish. Eating more fish, especially the kind packed with omega-3s like salmon, mackerel, or even tuna, is like giving your heart a big, warm hug. These fatty acids are like little superheroes zipping through your body. They lower inflammation, keep your blood pressure in check, and stop those pesky clots from forming that could sneak up and cause trouble. I can almost hear some of you now saying, "Fish? I'm not big on seafood. It's too fishy," or "I don't know how to cook it." I get it. Not everyone grew up with a fishing pole in hand or a mom who whipped up salmon every Friday. But hear me out. You don't have to turn into a sea captain or eat it every single day. The folks who study hearts say just 2 servings a week can make a real difference. And that's something anyone can manage, even if you're not a fan yet. So, how do you make it work? It's easier than you might think. Picture this. A simple salmon fillet, sprinkled with a little salt, pepper, and some fresh herbs like dill or parsley, then baked with a squeeze of lemon. Takes about 20 minutes in the oven, and it comes out flaky and delicious. If that sounds like too much effort, grab a can of sardines or tuna, drain it, and toss it into a salad with some greens and a drizzle of olive oil. You're done in 5 minutes flat. No stove required. My Uncle Fred, who's pushing 78, wasn't sold on this at first. He's a meat and potatoes guy through and through. But after his doctor gave him a nudge about his heart, he gave it a shot. He started with canned salmon mixed into his scrambled eggs. Sounds odd, but he loved it, and now he's hooked. He says he feels like he's got a new lease on life. with energy he hadn't felt in years. He even brags about how he's out fishing his grandkids down at the lake, reeling in trout while they're still entangling their lines. The best part? It's not just good for your heart. It's tasty, too. You don't have to force it down like medicine. It's food you can actually enjoy. Maybe start small. Try it once next week. See how it feels. You might surprise yourself and find a new favorite. And every bite's a little victory. Knowing you're feeding your heart something it'll thank you for. Isn't that worth a try? Especially when it's this simple to give yourself a boost. So, with cutting back on sugar and adding more fish, you're already on your way to sidestepping that heart attack risk. It's amazing how these small tweaks can start building a stronger, healthier you, isn't it? Now that we've got these first 2 tips under our belts, let's keep the momentum going and talk about something else you can sprinkle into your day to keep that heart happy. Fiber. Fiber's one of those things you might not think about much, but it's like a secret weapon for your heart. It's not flashy, no big commercials or billboards singing its praises, and it doesn't promise overnight miracles, but it works quietly behind the scenes to keep things running smoothly. C. Fiber. Found in everyday foods like oats, beans, lentils, or even a good old apple, helps sweep out the bad cholesterol that can build up in your arteries over time. It's like a trusty broom for your bloodstream, brushing away the junk before it settles in and turns into trouble. And here's the kicker. It keeps you full longer, so you're less likely to reach for that extra cookie, slice of pie, or handful of chips when you're lounging on the couch. It's a natural way to keep your appetite in check without feeling like you're missing out. Honestly, it's almost too good to be true. Simple, affordable, and already sitting in your pantry if you look close enough. So, how do you get more of it without turning your meals upside down? It's easier than you might think, and you don't need to be a gourmet cook to make it happen. Start your day with a bowl of oatmeal. Takes 5 minutes on the stove or even less in the microwave. Toss in some blueberries or a sliced banana for a little sweetness, and you've got a breakfast that's as tasty as it is good for you. Or maybe swap out that white bread for whole grain next time you make a sandwich. Same turkey and cheese, just a heart-friendlier package. My friend Margaret, who's 68, started doing this after her doctor told her she needed to watch her cholesterol. She used to grab a muffin from the bakery down the street every morning, but now she's all about her oats or a slice of whole grain toast with a smear of avocado. She says it's not just her heart that's thanking her. She's got more energy to chase after her grandkids when they visit, and she's not huffing and puffing like she used to. The goal's about 25 grams a day if you're a woman, or 30 if you're a man. Sounds like a lot, but you don't have to count every bite or carry a calculator to the table. Just add a little more here and there. A handful of almonds as a snack, a side of steamed broccoli with dinner, or even a bowl of bean soup on a chilly night. Your heart will feel the difference. And you might too. Lighter, steadier, ready for whatever the day throws at you. It's not about perfection, it's about giving yourself a little edge, one spoonful at a time. Doesn't that sound like a win worth having? Now, while we're making these little upgrades to what's on your plate, let's talk about something you might want to ease up on. Salt. I know, it's tough to imagine your mashed potatoes without that extra shake from the salt shaker, or your favorite soup without that familiar salty kick that warms you up on a cold day. Maybe you've got a habit of sprinkling a little extra on your eggs or fries. It's second nature, right? But here's the catch. Too much sodium can sneak up on you like an uninvited guest, pushing your blood pressure higher and making your heart work harder than it should. After 70, your body doesn't bounce back from that salt overload quite like it did when you were younger. And that's when trouble can start brewing quietly in the background. It's not about punishing yourself or sucking the joy out of your meals. The goal here is balance, keeping your heart happy without leaving your taste buds bored. So, how do you dial it back without feeling like you're eating cardboard? Try cutting back to about a teaspoon a day, which is around 2.300 milligrams. That might sound generous, but it adds up fast. Think canned soups, frozen dinners, deli meats, or even that bag of chips you nibble on during a movie. A single bowl of store-bought soup can nearly max out your day's limit. So, what can you do instead? Lean on herbs and spices to jazz things up. They're like little flavor wizards that don't come with a sodium price tag. A dash of garlic powder can make your veggies sing. A sprinkle of rosemary turns a plain chicken breast into something you'll actually look forward to. Or a pinch of paprika adds a smoky warmth to your potatoes. My cousin Ed, who's 74, was a salt fiend, shaker in hand at every meal, until his doctor raised an eyebrow at his blood pressure. He started experimenting with lemon zest for a bright zing and fresh dill for a garden fresh twist. And now he swears his dinners taste better than they ever did with salt alone. If you're eating out or grabbing something quick, just peek at the label and go for the low sodium option. Think reduced salt, broth or unsalted nuts. You can even rinse canned beans or veggies underwater to wash some of that sodium away. It's a small tweak, not a total overhaul, and it takes a big load off your heart without much effort. Ed's even got his wife on board now. They're having fun playing with flavors instead of leaning on the shaker. It's proof you don't have to sacrifice taste to give your heart a break. Sometimes, less salt opens the door to more delicious discoveries. Isn't that worth a little shake-up? With fiber scrubbing out the bad stuff and less salt keeping your blood pressure in check, you're building a pretty solid defense against that heart attack risk. These aren't hard rules to follow. Just gentle nudges toward habits that let you enjoy your days without worrying about what's going on inside. Next, we'll dive into a little green magic you can sip to give your heart an extra boost. Something that's probably already in your cupboard. Now, let's talk about that little green magic I mentioned. Green tea. If you've got a box of it tucked away in your cupboard, maybe left over from a holiday gift or a moment of curiosity at the grocery store, you might not realize it's more than just a cozy drink to wrap your hands around on a chilly afternoon. Green tea's packed with something called antioxidants. Think of them as tiny repair crews that zip around, fighting off the damage that can build up in your blood vessels over the years. It's like giving your heart a sturdy shield against the wear and tear that comes with getting older. The kind of wear that can stiffen things up if you're not careful. Studies, yep, the ones done by folks in white coats, show it can lower your bad cholesterol, the stuff that clogs arteries, and even help keep those arteries flexible and youthful. That's a big deal after 70. When your heart's been working hard for decades and deserves a little extra TLC, you don't need to chug gallons of it or turn your kitchen into a tea shop. Just 1 or 2 cups a day can do the trick. Maybe swap out that second cup of coffee in the afternoon for a nice, warm mug of green tea, or sip it while you're flipping through the paper, watching the birds outside, or chatting with a friend on the phone. It's not about forcing it into every meal. It's a gentle habit that slots right into your routine. My sister-in-law, Linda, who's 71, started this a couple of years ago after reading something about it in a magazine. She wasn't a tea person before, always a coffee gal, but she gave it a go, brewing a cup in the evening while she unwinds. Now she swears it's why she feels so calm and steady these days, like her nerves and her heart are both getting a little break. She even says her doctor noticed her numbers looking better at her last checkup. If the taste isn't your favorite, maybe it's a bit too earthy or bitter at first, a squeeze of lemon can brighten it up, or a drop of honey can smooth it out just enough. You could even try it iced in the summer with a sprig of mint if you're feeling fancy. It's such an easy habit to pick up. No special equipment, no big expense, just a tea bag and a kettle. Linda keeps a little stash by her stove now, and she's got me half convinced to join her. Your heart will thank you every time you take a sip, knowing you're doing something kind for it without breaking a sweat. Isn't that the kind of simple win we could all use a little more of? And while we're keeping things simple, there's one more step that ties all of this together. Keeping an eye on your cholesterol. I know, it's one of those words that pops up every time you see your doctor. And maybe it feels like a nag or something you'd rather shove to the back of your mind. But trust me, it's not as complicated as it seems. It's more like a friendly heads up than a homework assignment. Think of cholesterol like the oil in your car. If it's the good kind, everything hums along smoothly, keeping your engine, your heart, purring happily. But if the bad kind starts building up, gumming up the works, you're in for trouble down the road. After 70, your body doesn't bounce back from that buildup as fast as it once did. Things slow down a bit, and that's just nature. Knowing where you stand can help you stay ahead of the game, so you're not caught off guard by something you could have nudged in the right direction. You don't have to turn into a scientist or start decoding medical charts. Just ask your doctor for a quick check at your next visit. It's a simple blood test. Takes a few minutes, and then you've got those numbers in hand like a little roadmap. Once you know what's what, you can tweak what you eat to keep things in line. No big drama required. Maybe it's adding more of that oatmeal we talked about earlier, with its cholesterol sweeping fiber. Or swapping out butter for a drizzle of olive oil on your veggies. You could cut back on those fried treats, like donuts or crispy chicken wings, that taste so good but don't love your heart back. My old pal George, who's 76, got a wake-up call a couple of years ago when his cholesterol crept up higher than his doctor liked. He'd been a fryer guy forever. Fish, chicken, you name it, but he switched to grilling instead. Just a little olive oil, some spices, and a hot grill, and he's still eating meals he enjoys. He says he feels lighter on his feet, like he's shed a few years. And his doctor's thrilled, keeps patting him on the back at every checkup. It's not about overhauling your whole life or swearing off everything you love. It's a gentle nudge to make sure all these other tips we've covered really shine. George still sneaks a donut now and then, but he balances it with smarter choices most days. You can too. Check those numbers, tweak a little here and there, and keep your heart humming along. It's like tuning up that car before a long drive. Nothing fancy, just enough to keep the journey smooth and steady. Doesn't that feel like a small step worth taking for all the good days ahead? So, there you have it, 6 simple diet tips that can help you sidestep that heart attack risk and keep you feeling strong and lively. Cutting back on sugar, eating more fish, piling on the fiber, easing up on salt, sipping green tea, and watching your cholesterol. It's not a big, scary list, is it? These are small changes, but they add up to something powerful. You don't have to do them all at once. Pick one, give it a try, and see how it feels. Maybe you'll notice you've got a bit more energy to enjoy that walk around the block, or you're sleeping better at night. That's the beauty of it. Little steps can carry you a long way. I'd love to hear what you think. Drop a comment below and let me know which tip you're going to try first. Or maybe share a trick that's worked for you. If you found this helpful, give the video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so we can keep chatting about ways to live your best life. Here's to keeping your heart happy and strong, because you deserve to enjoy every moment, no matter your age.